Yo guys, it's Tripl-L and today let's talk about Fairy Tail chapter 516. I want to apologize for taking so long with this. I did not realize that the chapter had come out on another website than Manga Stream, so apologies. Anyway, let's talk about the chapter. Last time that we did a Fairy Tail chapter 515, I'm pretty sure I wasn't liking Eileen, and you know this chapter kind of keeps it going. But this chapter's got some interesting themes or interesting imagery going on. Like, first, let's address the big thing in the room. It's like Wendy got taken over. And that's, well, yeah, whatever. You know, I wasn't expecting that. I applaud that. Good on Mashima. Good on Mashima. I did not see that coming. But for this chapter, you know, I was pretty annoyed. Well, not annoyed. I just, Eileen just is kind of disappointing me. And seeing the breakdown she has here is just kind of unfortunate, and it's I feel like any character can break down. You know, like whenever you have a character breaking down to the degree that Eileen did in this particular chapter, it's either something that is a statement to how deranged the character is, or it could very easily just be a cop-out to get out of like what could have been something interesting. And the thing is, I don't want to call it too early because we might just get Eileen on the floor in the next 3 chapters talking about her hubris and talking about what's going on in her head, and in which case this whole little thing where she says that it's not fair, this little breakdown, it kind of has more value. But it really depends on how things are handled afterward, that I'll be able to judge how I feel about Eileen better. But right now in progress, it's just I can't really make any judgments. Anyway, the chapter itself, I'm kind of rambling. Let's make sure I do everything right here. In terms of the Eileen and the Erza and the Wendy stuff first, because the Natsu stuff I think is really interesting, and I'm really happy to see Natsu in this chapter. But for the Wendy, Eileen, Erza, there's a few points of interest before the actual moment of the takeover, and I don't know, I respect that Mashima is sticking to the theme so hard. In the chapter, Erza ultimately ends up slashing Eileen, and before that Wendy was even saying that she sympathizes with Eileen, but she can't forgive someone who does that to family. And you know, on a meta level, this has been going on with Eileen for a bit. Like Mashima himself is telling us that, you know, be sympathetic to her, but it doesn't change the fact of anything. I think Wendy's stance on Eileen is probably the stance that the author wants to convey to us. And something that happens throughout the chapter is that, you know, there's a debate of nature versus nurture. It's like one of the first debates someone might learn about if they take introductory psychology, the nature and nurture debate. And in this particular chapter, Fairy Tail pretty much makes its stance that nurture is more important than nature. And of course, that's nothing that important for people who don't care about the debate, but I think it's interesting. That was one of the points that had me kind of skeptical, but because when you actually think about it, it's fine. Like in the chapter, Eileen speaks that her and Erza were relatives, they were family, they were blood, but enchantment wouldn't work on her. But then she flips it by saying that in front of her there is a dragon slayer and an enchantress. So while Erza was compatible biologically with Eileen, she wasn't compatible in terms of the magic that she used. So what ends up happening is that the enchantment works better with someone who is trained in the same magics as the wielder. And that's just a very interesting thing, right? It's like, it's effectively saying that nurture wins out over nature. And it actually also is reflected in the way Erza and Wendy are handling Eileen. For instance, in the chapter, Erza like actually slashes Eileen across the womb. There's a giant X on Eileen's abdomen. That's pretty much saying that she's denying her role as her mother. Erza's denying Eileen her role as her mother. It doesn't matter. It's that X right there is like symbolically just, or metaphorically, just saying it doesn't matter that I came out of you. It doesn't matter that I am from you. It doesn't matter. I'm still gonna attack you. I'm still gonna beat you. I applaud the author for actually sticking to that theme all the way throughout and applying it to every aspect. And then the whole thing with the fact that enchantment works not on physical relations but on magic itself. And it makes sense, right? An enchantment is magic, so I guess a person having the magical profile to mesh well with the other, it makes sense once you think about the logic of fairy tale. Like if it's magic, magic works with magic and it doesn't work with physicality. So, you know, I am honestly very pleased with the fact that he stuck to the theme that he had established for the Erza and the Eileen fight. The theme that ultimately blood relations don't mean shit in fairy tale. It's just be a good person and care for your family. Whether or not they are actually blood related to you, it doesn't matter. You know, this is like really one of the more impressive uses of the medium. I very much appreciate the artistry that's going into this. And look, you could say I'm reading into it, but the fact of the matter is there's a giant X on Eileen's abdomen left there by Erza. That happened. I doubt it's not significant of something. I honestly doubt it. Like, come on, they're artists. They could put whatever meaning they want into this. Anyway, Wendy's now controlled, and that's cool. I assume that Wendy's gonna be able to because Eileen's shown us that she doesn't have a really good grip on her personality, or sorry, she doesn't have a really good grip on her mind. So, you know, I'm not worried for Wendy. They'll have a spat, but Wendy will overcome it. Wendy's already way more mentally strong than Eileen is. That's established. Eileen's little hissy fit when she's talking about it's not fair is just showing that, yeah, she's not all there. And you know, before that, I also think that she's lying about what she was saying about Erza, about not caring about Erza, because she's letting herself get beat by Erza and Wendy in the first place. I think like on some fundamental level she is bothered that Erza is there, and her getting beat down as much as she did, I think is proof of that. I mean, I don't want to take away from the fact that Erza and Wendy were putting in work, but at the same time, this is Eileen. She is put on the level of the king of magic. She is someone who altered the landscape of an entire continent. I think she was built up to be this kind of giant mountain to overcome. And so seeing her kind of lose her footing here, I think is indicative of the fact that Erza, she has some kind of deep-seated problem with Erza. Anyway, enough about Eileen. Let's talk about Natsu. In this chapter, Natsu comes to the fact that he's going to die. And honestly, the art for that particular panel was pretty awesome. I liked Ignil's metaphor. Now I kind of understand the whole thing about the dragon seed. The dragon seed, I'm pretty sure, is a metaphor for the process that's happening in the bodies of the dragon slayers. And to see that ultimately the dragon factor is mixing in with the demon factor, and that those two factors are kind of at war within Natsu's body, is pretty cool. Now, because this is fairy tale, because this is a shonen manga, I ultimately think that there's going to be some kind of merging of the two factors, and we're going to get something pretty badass, and it's going to be something that makes Natsu unique. Because since Natsu is technically the main male character, he kind of needs that extra bit of uniqueness to put him over the top compared to the other dragon slayers. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know, like, we could just make it happen. Let's continue diving into Natsu's memories, because his expression here when he realizes that he might be dying, that's a very interesting expression, and I would like to see him dwell in it for at least like half a chapter, just to see what kind of meaning he draws out of it, what kind of interpretations he comes out with, just because it'd be interesting to see an introspective Natsu. Anyway, right now we're going into this next chapter. It's going to be the drama between controlled Wendy and then the drama with Natsu possibly dying. And I'm actually, I'm looking forward to it. This chapter, just seeing that Mashima kind of stuck to the theme that he was saying for the last couple of chapters, I respect that. And the way that he kind of illustrates it through the dialogue and through the events and through the actions of the characters, I think that is a form of artistry that you can be appreciated when it pops around. Because at the end of the day, you know, it's manga, but I appreciate that kind of sophistication. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a great day.